good afternoon, and welcome to the second day of the University of Maryland St. Joseph Medical Center Cancer Institute Cancer Survivorship Week for 2021. National Cancer Survivors Day was Sunday and is an annual celebration on the first Sunday of June. We're excited and extending it to a week of virtual events. As with National Cancer Survivors Day, we are going to support the many challenges that come with a cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, and life after a cancer diagnosis and treatment. We know that with over 16.9 million cancer patients in the U.S., it is incredibly important to support the ongoing challenges of cancer survivorship and to promote the more resources, research, and survivor-friendly legislation that can improve cancer survivors' quality of life. We put together an exciting week of virtual events that we know will interest, support, and serve you and your family for wherever you are on your cancer journey. Our dedicated and talented staff at the Barbara L. Posner Wellness and Support Center and throughout the entire Cancer Institute are part of our events that you will not want to miss. So please share this week of event with your family and friends. All are welcome. And check out our website at umstjoseph.org/superhero for a complete list of events and links to each virtual event. And let us know if you have any questions you may have. And my number is 410-427-2598. So without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Jody Tripple, our resident social worker here at the Cancer Institute. And I'm looking forward to her presentation. So Jody, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry about that, you guys. Hi. So I am here to talk about coping after having a cancer diagnosis. I am really appreciative that I'm allowed to be here and talk about this topic, so thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jody Tripple, and I am the licensed social worker here at the University of Maryland St. Joseph Medical Center Serpic Infusion and Multidisciplinary Center, otherwise known as our Cancer Institute, which is so much easier to say. So today I'd like to discuss a few topics. I would like to discuss some common effects that often happen after a cancer diagnosis, and I'd also like to provide you with some coping strategies to manage the distress that is so common after a cancer diagnosis. For today, the goal is for you to understand the common effects after getting a cancer diagnosis, to learn information, and to have a takeaway with some self-help tools that may help you reclaim a greater sense of control back in your life as you move forward through cancer. Survivorship. So it's Survivorship Week. What is survivorship exactly? So the National Cancer Institute describes survivorship as focusing on the health and well-being of a person with cancer from the time of diagnosis until the end of life. This includes the physical, mental, emotional, social, and physical effects that cancer can begin at the diagnosis and continue through treatment and beyond. Most people experience a strong sense of emotions after a cancer diagnosis, not only when they first hear that it's cancer, but also at various times during cancer treatment. When you receive a cancer diagnosis, it's often too difficult to take in the news immediately. You might hear the words, but you might not be able to absorb them. You might not be able to believe them. Most people feel pretty overwhelmed at this point. The weeks after a diagnosis can also be really stressful. You may feel like everything is happening too fast or too quickly. People can often feel confused and anxious about treatments and side effects. You may wonder or worry if you will be the same person as you were before and how your life may change. There is no right way to feel. Experiencing a range of emotions is completely normal. The intense feelings may be constant, or they may come and go. You may find some pass with time, while others last longer. At times, you may feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster. However, when your mental health needs are met, you're in the best position to manage the demands of cancer. Talking with your social worker, psychologist, therapist, or other mental health provider can help you. However overwhelming a diagnosis may be, many people say that their experience from cancer also includes feelings of hope and connection. And for some, it can be a reflection and lead to new priorities in their life. So receiving a cancer diagnosis is similar to a traumatic event. It's not something you plan for or anticipate, and you experience a sense of loss of control. Oh, I'm missing a slide. Okay, so some common reactions to getting a cancer diagnosis are shock and disbelief. This is the first reaction to a diagnosis. You might feel numb or as if you're not feeling any emotion at all. It may take time to accept that you even have cancer, especially if you don't feel any symptoms. This numbness can protect you as you gradually come to terms with the diagnosis. However, some people may never fully accept their cancer diagnosis, and over time, denial can make it harder to manage the demands of treatment. Fear and anxiety are common responses. It's natural to worry about your treatment, the side effects, test results, and long-term outcome, as well as the impact the diagnosis will have on your family, work, and other responsibilities. Most people cope better when they learn more about the diagnosis and treatment options than when they develop a plan for how they will manage practical issues. The time before treatment begins may have been particularly stressful. Many people, they feel calmer after they start treatment. Unresolved fear-based thoughts can lead to anxiety that affect thoughts and may make you irritable and short-tempered. Anxiety, guilt, and blame are also other common reactions. It's common to ask, why me? You may feel angry with your family or friends, healthcare professionals, the world, or even yourself if you think you may have contributed to your cancer diagnosis. Perhaps you're angry that you did everything right and you still got cancer. Regarding blame, try to remember that no one deserves cancer. Oftentimes people feel a sense of sadness. Feeling sad after a cancer diagnosis is quite common. It's a natural response to a loss and disappointment. You may be sad about the way that your cancer changed your day-to-day life, your body, and your plans for the future. Loneliness is also another common reaction. Cancer can feel isolated. Even if you have a lot of people to support you, you might feel lonely if your family and friends are having trouble dealing with your diagnosis, or if you're too sick to work, socialize, or enjoy other usual activities. And this could be a time to connect with other people that are going through a similar cancer experience. Loss of control is another common reaction. So being told you have cancer can be really overwhelming, and you may feel these emotions are out of control. It may seem that you are losing control of your life. This can be very difficult, especially if you're being independent. Used to being independent and the one to take care of everyone else. This can be quite a change for you. So like I mentioned before, getting a cancer diagnosis can be like a traumatic experience. It's not something you plan or anticipate, and you experience a sense of loss and control. Before you know it, your previous normal life begins to change. So there are many changes to one's life during active cancer treatment. You become focused on your diagnosis, treatment, and other medical appointments. You begin to think about how to balance all of your responsibilities. You might have to work, or maybe you're worried about your children or your partner. You have to rearrange daily routines, and you may have to talk to your employer about adjusting your work schedule. So you have all this to manage, and you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, but time doesn't stop. So what naturally begins to happen is you develop worry thoughts. People sometimes experience worry anxious, fearful-based thoughts that may swirl around in your head, kind of like a tornado. Many of these worry thoughts can be addressed once you start treatment. The worry thoughts are easier to manage typically when you're engaged and in more productive and healthy distracting behaviors. The people are more vulnerable to these thoughts when they're alone, like in the car, in the shower, or maybe in bed. And sometimes this happens at just initially right after diagnosis, but even after treatment ends for some people and there is no evidence of disease left, and you have so many reasons to be happy and you expect to finally be able to resume your normal life, you may still have these new or lingering thoughts. Perhaps you put your family ahead of yourself during treatment, or maybe you focused on the physical aspects of care rather than having your emotional needs met. And just now you face these worry thoughts. So you have all these swirling tornadoes of worrisome thoughts going around in your head. And maybe you're having difficulty reclaiming a comfortable sense of yourself. And then you feel this sense of loss of control. So after treatment, people often have thoughts like, now what? I don't feel like myself. Might I be returning to work? How can I relate to my friends, family, and partner? What if the cancer returns? The key way to reclaiming a greater sense of control is to take ownership of these uncomfortable thoughts and to learn how to process them and restructure them and minimize your emotional distress. You can do this through counseling. So it's helpful for patients to recall a period in their life before their cancer diagnosis where they can look back and see themselves in a positive light, when they feel like maybe they were at their personal best, when things are going well. It's helpful to consider how they viewed themselves during that period of time and what contributions they made to their life and the lives of their significant others. You know, did you have any physical conditions? Were you physically active prior to your diagnosis? How would you describe your emotional self before your diagnosis? Can you describe what your social life was before your diagnosis? Can you describe your relationships with your significant others, children, family members, colleagues? Did you have a connection with, a religion? Did you have strong faith or spirituality? What kind of personal or family values might you have had? What motivated you to engage in life before your diagnosis? Sometimes having people write down a list of personal positive attributes is helpful to reference these strengths. And this helps us work towards their personal positive goals. This list helps us learn about how they viewed themselves and how they engaged meaningfully in their lives before they were diagnosed with cancer. And it helps to set up short-term goals. This allows the opportunity for people to think about and reclaim their best sense of themselves. And this is exactly what they want to reclaim, that best sense of themselves. So helping them evaluate their character traits it can be helpful in reclaiming a greater sense of control in their life. This also provides an opportunity to learn about people and promote positive self-talk. So if you love the outdoors, if you're a good cook, if you're dependable, you're a good listener, you're a good sister, you can look at these behaviors or activities that you might have engaged in, even try to implement them back into your life, even if it means that you're going to have to modify how you did it. For some, they're happy that their cancer treatment has ended, and maybe they have no evidence of disease, but they still experience too much worry and fear. Their anxiety is high. They worry about the cancer returning, or maybe they have worry thoughts about other issues. So this is when the fight or flight response in our body happens. This is our body's automatic response when we perceive a threat or a danger. This is a primitive response, okay? And it empowers us to have strength and energy and speed to avoid harm. So once the perceived threat or danger is gone, the parasympathetic nervous system comes in and it restores us to a place of calm. But when a person has a cancer diagnosis, they tend to have a sense of hypervigilance. So They're wondering always, when is the other shoe going to drop? Will my cancer come back? What's next? There is always an element of perceived threat for cancer patients. They worry about their mortality, and their arousal state is higher, and their stress levels are higher. So as you go through treatment, sometimes these worry thoughts continue, and they start to build up, and they've happened for a period of time. You begin to collect uncomfortable thoughts during your weeks or months of treatment. What if my cancer returns? I should have taken better care of myself. Why did this happen to me? Nobody will find me attractive anymore. I don't feel like myself. I'll lose my job if I don't have enough energy. You may even have had some sleep disturbance or difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep, which is when our body typically rests and the nervous system is able to rest and restore the body. So what is getting in the way? Unresolved fear-based thoughts are what's getting in the way. After a cancer diagnosis, the arousal of the brain is higher. The stress and anxiety is higher as well. So cancer treatment comes with a lot of worry and stress. And when cancer treatment is completed, and now you've spent weeks and months with these uncomfortable thoughts during treatment, they've built up and your stress levels are higher. The uncomfortable thoughts can come and revisit whenever they like. And the anxiety can intensify, which is very stressful and emotionally draining. So what can you do? You can reclaim a sense of control, both mentally and physically. You've just gone through a traumatic experience after receiving a cancer diagnosis and treatment. Over time, your worry thoughts can turn into what some people call stinking thinking. So stinking thinking is also what we call limited thinking pattern. So there are many. Filtering, you can focus only on negative details while ignoring all the positive aspects of a situation. There's polarized thinking, where you see things only in black or white, good or bad. You don't see any middle ground. Some people tend to overgeneralize, and they reach a conclusion based on a single piece of evidence, exaggerating the frequency of the problems using negative global labels. Mind reading, sometimes people, without saying so, you think you know what people think and feel, and that affects how you respond. Magnifying, you exaggerate the degree or intensity of a problem. You turn up the volume on anything bad and make it large, loud, and overwhelming. Sometimes people overpersonalize. You assume you know what people say and do because they're doing it because it's a reaction to you. Okay, and that's not always the case. The shoulda, coulda thinking. So you have ironclad rules about how you and other people should act. People who break the rules really upset you, and you feel upset when they violate your rules. So as you reveal uncomfortable thoughts, they can be challenged and reevaluated at any time. So what can be helpful is to identify a situation that triggered the negative thought. It's helpful to identify how you felt in this situation. Identify the automatic thought that you had. This is now the time for reality checking, since you understand what the situation was and how you felt and what you were thinking. Then what you need to do is weigh the evidence. So what is the evidence that supports your thought in this situation? What is the evidence that contradicts your thought in this situation? How likely is this going to happen? And then think about how, if your uncomfortable thought, think about how proportionate it is to the situation. And then we identify a more realistic, balanced, helpful thought. We can also measure emotions. This is another way to help you claim control over managing your emotions. You can subjectively manage your emotions. All of these emotions are measurable. So you can measure both positive and negative feelings. We look at frequency. So how often do I experience this emotion? duration. How long does this emotion last? Intensity. On a scale from 1 to 10, how strong is this emotion? So think about your anxiety. You know, we all live with anxiety at times, but you can do a personal assessment. We can also use deep breathing exercises. So when they're done properly, it has a measurable effect on relaxing the body. Proper deep breathing exercises creates relaxation, and it over-oxygenates the body. What's really nice is you can do deep breathing exercises just about anywhere. As a colleague once told me, they are private, they're portable, and they're priceless. So they don't cost anything, and you can do it anywhere. This is actually a good exercise in teaching you self-regulation. So when you help your body to relax, you help your mind to relax as well. Think about different activities that are doable and realistic for you. This could be one that's easy to implement. There are other helpful techniques as well. There's a decision-making model. We can help you evaluate a problem in a situation and help you make the best choice. We can implement thought-stopping techniques. So throughout our minds flow a constant level of activity, thoughts and worries, perceptions and information. So which can be helpful, can be thought of as an internal noise. So sometimes we need to interrupt this flow of noise. A technique called thought stopping can be used to interrupt the chain of persistent nagging thoughts. Also, we can help you with guided imagery. So we can take you through a relaxation technique where we help you visualize a more positive place and help you breathe through that exercise. So all of these techniques are techniques used to calm the body and calm the mind. Some of them are cognitive and some of them are behavioral in technique. But in summary, after coping with a cancer diagnosis, you have a lot of stress that has continued for a very long period of time. And the way to process these emotions and reclaim a sense of control is to really work on implementing some of these cognitive and behavioral approaches. I hope you found some of this information helpful and something that you can use in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jody, for that very, very beautiful kind of message and presentation. I was wondering if anyone had any questions at the moment for Jody about how to cope with cancer and how to, help somebody through their diagnosis and cancer journey.
Jody, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to your support groups and any other resources that patients can have where they can really work more to understand some of these things that they're feeling and going through and maybe share with others, and then reinforce so many of the helpful techniques and ways of coping that you've given us. Do they happen within your support groups? Are there other, places for them to do that?
Thank you. So there are. So really, those types of techniques are mostly used in individual counseling. Our support group that I run with one of our nurses, Becky Cohen, that happens twice monthly, and it's open to all cancer patients, anyone who has a diagnosis or has been diagnosed with cancer. That is more of a support group. So we all talk about different issues that may be coming up for various patients, and they're able to identify with each other and support each other through different issues that come up through treatment or after. So that's a good place to really kind of learn how to identify with someone who really gets what you're going through. Sometimes it's hard sometimes for patients to feel like, even though they may have a big family and lots of support, they may feel like if they haven't gone through what they've been through, they don't fully understand how they're feeling inside. Or like I mentioned, sometimes after treatment, people, they're very excited. They're like, woo, you got through treatment, congratulations, it's time to go back to work, everything's going to be normal again. And it doesn't always feel normal because you feel a little bit different. And sometimes families don't understand that. So that's where the support group comes in handy. Um,
Great. And so
what
that's
else?
on Tuesday evenings, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, what, at 6 o'clock?
Correct. At 6 o'clock from 6 to 7.
And then patients should contact you to talk about that a
Hmm.
little bit before they join the group.
Right. It's a private group. So we don't, right now it's web-based. We haven't been able to meet in person yet again. So we do want to be mindful and make sure that it's private and people feel protected and that it's a safe place to share. So we want to make sure that I know who's coming to the group and I'll send them an invite and be sure to include them.
Great.
Um,
Good. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you very much for all of that information.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. And as always, I've recorded this, so it will be up for viewing at another time. So thank you so much, Jody and Jenny, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.